forget the passion, forget the art, forget the thing I love. I just want to make $1 million. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know where to start. I don't know what the easiest path to that is. Look, there's a million ways you could do this. You could go get a job, save money over time every year, put it away, invest in an index fund, and it will compound. You'll get rich sometime between your 40s and your 70s if you do it that way. I was not interested in that. I was interested in a little bit of a faster path. The easier way to get to $1 million is to basically sell.
Today we have a much anticipated guest. Been trying to get him on for years. Not to make you feel bad, Shaan. Shaan Puri, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be here. You've built something special. I'm excited to do this.
I'm very excited to have you. Okay, so here's where I want to go. Or here's where I want to begin, I should say. So you sold a business to Twitch. You sold your newsletter, The Milk Road, for millions of dollars. You run a huge podcast, over 25 million downloads. You run an 8-figure e-commerce business. But interestingly enough, I don't want to start with any of that stuff. Where I want to begin is actually something that you wrote in one of your recent newsletters. You said, I heard a quote from a guy I met at a casino. I don't know how much, but I know one thing. The ordinary life isn't for me. That line stuck with me for the 16 years since I heard it. The ordinary life isn't for me. I wanted to live a life where I could be creative with my friends and get filthy rich in the process. And so, Shaan, here's where I want to begin. You said it multiple times, even in that quote I read out. The ordinary life isn't for me. If we look at kind of like your early years, formative years, why was it so important for you not to have an ordinary life?
God, I love that line. Just hearing you say it again, it feels good. just that mission, right? Like, I want to do creative things with my friends and get filthy rich in the process. Like, can't think of a better game plan. But I didn't start with that. I started with the opposite. I was a pretty ordinary kid. And, the funny thing is, like, when you watch podcasts like this, or you watch movies, the ones that get popular are always these crazy stories, rags to riches. The person who was beat down and then they've become the best boxer, or the person who was, they were broke and sleeping in the subway and now they're a billionaire. And I didn't have, like thank my mom, thank my dad. It wasn't that bad, but we were in the middle. And the middle is actually a surprisingly dangerous place to be. The middle class, having a good job, being a good student, right? Just being in the middle of the pack. Because when you're in the middle, you actually take the biggest risk. The biggest risk in life is not failure, it's mediocrity, because mediocrity sort of drags you down. And I realized that because I saw it around me. I saw a lot of people, adults in my life, that lived a very ordinary life. And they wanted more. And the sad part was, it wasn't just that it was ordinary by my standard, me judging them. It was by their own standard. They had sort of given up hope on doing something cool in their life, that their life could be a lot better, that they could have something extraordinary. So, like, I'll give you an example. Growing up, I was painfully shy, which is ironic because now I get paid to talk. I have a podcast that, a bunch of people listen to. But before that, growing up, I was so shy that, I was forgettable. It wasn't like I was bullied in school. Even worse, I was ignored. I kind of probably would have rather been bullied, to be honest. At least that would have been something. Instead, I just had a very forgettable social life. And I wanted, like every kid, right? Like, I'm a teenager. I want to be cool. I want to meet girls. I want to have all those things. But I was just in the middle. Again, I was just sort of average, painfully average and painfully shy. Like in the school play, I'd get cast as the tree. Like in my group of friends, I would just be kind of the background guy, just the laugh track. And I had a moment where, most of my life, I just thought that's just what it is. That's just kind of where I slotted in the food chain. I was just somewhere in the middle, and that's just what it was. But I had a great, fortunate bounce of the ball, which was when I was 14, 15 years old, my parents said we were moving. I lived in Texas, and they said we were moving, and not just moving anywhere. They said we're moving to China. And so just imagine you're a 9th or 10th grader, and your parents are like, hey, wake up. We're moving to China. Dad got a job in China. You're moving to China. And even though I kind of, like I was saying, like I was shy, I was sort of just like very average student, average social life, average everything. pretty shy. I didn't want to lose that. Like, I didn't want to leave all my friends. No kid would. And so at first I was like, this sucks. And I was a little bit bummed out, but whatever. What am I going to do? I'm a kid. My parents are moving. And I remember being on the airplane going to China, and my sister I got an older sister, and she did just sometimes siblings just do some like next level great shit. And she had one of those conversations with me. She's like, when you get to China, like nobody knows you. And I was like, oh, great. Like, rub it in. I'm a nobody. And she's like, you're going to be a new kid at school. And I was like, I know, I'm dreading it. And she's like, dreading it? Why? She's like, think about this. Nobody knows you, so they don't know. She's like, think about it this way. At your current, like at the school you were at in Texas, who's the coolest kid in school? I was like, easy. Casey Prusman. She's like, why? What is Casey doing? I mean, he's funny. He's kind of the class clown, but he can crack jokes, and the teachers don't even get mad. The teachers love him. He's a pretty good student. He's an athlete. He's not afraid to talk to girls. He's also cool with me. He's like, he's friends with losers like me too. So I kind of like this guy. Like he's the man. And she goes, perfect. When you get off this plane, you could just go be Casey Prusman. They don't know you're not Casey Prusman. I said, they don't know you're not. She goes, so all that stuff you said he does, you could just start doing. You have a fresh start. You could just start doing those things. And who knows? Like if you do those things, maybe you will end up being more like the guy you wanted to be. And as funny as it was, that was like a switch moment for me, right? The idea that, wow, there's a big power in this blank slate, and that I could simply just decide to start being different. And I did. I went to school and I started. What would Casey do? Oh, what would Casey do in this scenario? He wouldn't be too shy to go. He would go up and sit down at the lunch table with them, introduce himself. He would be nice to that kid who's kind of a little bit of a loser, just because that's who he is. He's just nice to everybody. He's not picking cliques. He would crack jokes. He would do all those things. I did all of those things, and I literally switched my personality almost overnight from a really shy, introverted kid to an extroverted kid on this one realization that, I'm one decision away that I could just change what I was doing. And if I just simply act as those who act like the people who have the thing I want, I will also get the thing I want. And that was the first time I realized, like, oh, there's a way out of the average position. You don't have to stay in the middle. Even if you're at the middle right now, you're not stuck in the middle. You're one decision away. And then that became kind of a theme in my life. Was like, well, okay, that works socially. Could that work in my like business career? Like, could I do it that way too? Could I get out of the middle? And I don't know. That's the story of my life is finding a way out of the middle. Not because I worked harder than everybody or had more talent, but just making a few simple decisions that can shift the way I was seeing the situation. Which made me, when you change the way you see something, you'll change what you do. When you change what you do, you change the result. Right? That sort of chain.
It's so interesting, and I actually want to go deeper. And one of the kind of, maybe it's like a strange thing I do. When I'm listening to someone, I listen really intently. Like I pay attention to the words. And so even when you're talking about being mediocre or average, you don't just say average, you say painfully average, or it was forgettable. It's like when I listen to you, there's a real emotion, there's a real almost repulsion about the idea of being mediocre. You even said mediocrity is the greatest risk. And so even at an early age, it feels like that was the case. Like there was this desire to be the guy, to be the man, the Casey Perusman or whatever his name is. And so hearing it, I'm curious why that was the case. Like to you, like why is it so important to avoid the middle?
Because that's where I was. You know what I mean? Like I think everybody who's listening to a podcast right now, like there's some area of your life that you don't love about your own life. Hopefully there's areas you do love, but we all got something. Some people don't like their weight. Some people don't like their grades. Some people don't like the amount of money in their bank account. There's some part of your life that you're not happy with. And for me, I don't know why, it was like an allergy. I was allergic to average. Like it was like, some people could just eat a banana, they're fine. Some people are allergic to bananas. It kills them to have that thing. That's kind of what it felt like to me. And I don't know why. It just was so obvious to me. I never even questioned it. It was like the contrast, meaning like what was going on in my life, which was like just ho hum, kind of in the middle. I there was a part of me, there was like a little voice inside of me that was like, that wanted more. And like you got stay delusional on your shirt. I delusionally believed that I was going to have more, even though I had no evidence of it. Like all of the evidence in my life was stacked up to like, Your Honor, he is guilty. He's guilty. He'll be average. He's just ordinary. He's just kind of in the middle. Like that's just who this dude is. But there was a part of me that was like, no, not you, man. You are capable of doing special things. You're capable of having an extraordinary life. And I also I remember looking around, and I used to have these teachers that would tell me teachers in schools kind of train you to fit into the herd. And they would say they would say things like about what most people are doing. And I sort of had a moment one day, I don't know if it was like a teenage rebellious streak, where I remember reading in the newspaper that like the average, most marriages ended in divorce, like the average, like 50% divorce rate. So I was like, okay, so most relationships end poorly. Gotcha, right? Or if I do what most people do, I will get the average result. The average marriage is either divorced or on the brink. Then you read about people's savings, and you're like, oh man, the average person has whatever the stat is, less than $5,000 in their bank account in case there was a health crisis. And this is in America. The average salary is $65,000 a year. Well, that's not the result I wanted financially. Then you say, okay, the average health, right? The average American is overweight or obese. That's the stats. So I kind of had this realization that the average is not very good. The average is not like a happy ending for my life. If my life was a movie, I would walk out if that's the ending. And so I got really sensitive to, don't do what most people do because you don't want the result most people have. I still didn't know what the right things to do was, but I knew that the average outcome was not one that I wanted. And that's what I was on track to have. I didn't really, that's the way I was going. I was in the average at the time. And so I don't know, that was just so clear to me. It was so true. When you hear a true thing and you can't unhear it, it was a part of my head that was like, I want more than just the average, and that the average is not like a happy ending to a movie. So let's get out of here, man. There's got to be some way out. I didn't know what it was, but started to figure it out. That's kind of what the next 15 years of my life were like, was trying to figure that out, whether it was socially or in business or in health, whatever.
I want to get into the figuring it out part. And I have another quote from one of your newsletter posts. I'm going to read it to you. You say, "This essay has concepts and pictures that I've never shared before. And it answers the question, what do you wish you knew when you were younger? It starts with a single decision that changed my life. That decision was to spend a year strategically broke. No job, no salary, and no plan." And you know what? The reason I even bring it up is as I was reading that post, it was almost like, again, this repulsion of being average, of I'm just going to engineer my life so I don't follow what everyone else is doing. Right. And so can you get into...
By the way, I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm not saying I resent anybody else who wants a normal job, wants a steady paycheck, wants the average things in life. I'm not saying, no judgment on others. I just knew for me that was not the right answer. And so if you're listening to this, does that resonate with you? Do you when I heard that dude at the casino say, it was this, people at casinos are kind of smooth talking degenerates, but he said that just the way he said it, he's like, I don't know much, man, but the ordinary life, it ain't for me. And it was almost like at a casino, these degenerates is they're willing to go broke for the possibility of going rich. They would rather do that than just have the $200 in their pocket and be safe. And there was something about that I resonated with. I obviously didn't want to go broke, but I knew, okay, I'm like this guy. I'm willing to risk the ordinary to have something extraordinary. So similarly, all right, what you're talking about, me spending a year strategically broke. First, good marketing, right? The spin job on being broke. I'm strategically broke. This is intentional shit. And it kind of was. I got a job straight out of college that was paying me more money than I thought I deserved at the time. I think I was making $110,000 a year, basically my first year out of college. So I had a great job, 6-figure salary. Boom. That's kind of like growing up. My parents told me you go to a good school so that you can get a good job. What's a good job? You can make 6 figures. That's how big my worldview was. That's what I dreamed of at the time. And I went there for 2 months and I quit. It wasn't even that bad of a job, to be honest. It wasn't like I was absolutely miserable. But again, I was like, yo, what am I doing here? What's the path? This is just that average thing. This is like, oh, I'll be at this career ladder for 15 years. Like, oh, wait, that's not what I want. So I quit. And my parents and anybody else was like, what are you quitting for? What are you going to go do? And I said, I'm going to spend a year. Like, I'm young. I could spend a year strategically broke. And I kind of have a couple of goals. One, I'm going to have as much fun as possible, because when I look around at a bunch of grown-ups, a lot of them seem like they have what I call STS. They're stressed, they're tired, and they're stagnant. And I was like, yo, I don't want to be like that. So let me just have fun, at least while I'm young. The second thing was, I want to figure out what it is I actually like to do, because I noticed there's two groups of people in life. There's people that liked waking up in the morning, go to their job, and there's people that dreaded that Monday morning. Both of them ended up going to their jobs. So, like, both of them did it anyways. One just enjoyed it, one didn't. I'd rather be the one who enjoyed it. So I knew, okay, I got to figure out what it is that I like. And third, I'm going to like develop my skills. Like, I'm going to give myself a real education by working on projects. And so deciding to quit that job and spend that year sleeping on air mattresses, three of us in a 1-bedroom apartment, working on random shit, doing random projects. That was the best year of my life. It was super fun, taught me what I wanted to do in life. And lastly, it built a bunch of skills that actually, got me further than what would have happened had I just stayed at that entry level job where, I'm getting past these like kind of minor tasks, and I'm sort of doing them on this 9 to 5 pace.
Mm. You know what? I think I love that. I loved reading the post about being strategically broke for a year. The reason I say that, I think it would actually be life changing for a lot of people, especially the person that's used to getting everything correct. Like, they're used to following the pathway perfectly. And my question to you is, for that person, I think the most scary thing is that judgment from others. It's that feeling of like, I'm looking at my friends and they just got their grad job. They just moved into their first apartment. The money's coming in. They're getting a bit more status, and like, people are starting to recognize them. They're getting respect from the world. Meanwhile, you're like in Boulder, Colorado with your boys, like doing this thing. And so I'm curious, at that point, what is giving you the courage? Because a lot of people say they want to live a great life, or they want to live a unique life. It's a different thing to actually be unique. Like, there's a struggle with that. Like, there's a friction to actually be one of one or different. You stand out. And so how did you reconcile that at that point? Okay, I'm going to take you guys behind the scenes for just a second. So 12 months ago, my work was a complete mess. Let me know, do you know that feeling when your work is just scattered everywhere? You've got some stuff in Google Docs over here. You've got the Notes app on your phone open over there. PDFs just lost somewhere on your laptop. A year ago, that was me, and it was costing me my time. It was costing me my sanity. So much so that I reached out to a friend, and he introduced me to Notion, the sponsor of today's episode. And he was telling me how he uses Notion as the central hub for all of his notes, his documents, projects, and how it was making him so much more productive. And honestly, at first I was so skeptical. I did not need another tool to add to my workflow. But since then, Notion has been a complete game changer. It's now my digital HQ. It organizes all of my tasks, tracks my habits, and it keeps my team in sync. And I can now say that I understand the hype. I get it why so many people swear by Notion. And so if you're someone that feels disorganized, you feel stressed, and it's like difficult to manage all of these tasks, potentially it's even the thing that's stopping you putting out content, Notion is going to be your lifeline. And it's not just me saying this. Over 50% of Fortune 500 companies use Notion. So if you want to join us and try Notion for free, go to the link in the description, click on notion.com/Callum Johnson. That's all in lowercase. And when you actually use that link in the description, you are supporting the show. So it's a double benefit, and we're going to be able to bring you more great content. So that's notion.com/Callum Johnson. Thank you so much. And back to the show.
I'll say at first I didn't, right? I did take that job for 2 months. I could have done it straight away, but at first I got pulled in by like, I should probably do this. I should do this. I think that's the right move. And Tony Robbins has a great face. He goes, most people just should all over themselves. And that's what I was doing. I was shoulding all over myself. I should do this. I should do this. It wasn't what I actually wanted to do, but it's what I felt like I should do in the eyes of whoever, society, parents, whatever. And nobody was even specifically saying it. It's just the little voice in your head that's telling you should do this. The good news was that, again, I sort of had this allergic reaction to average. And so when I was there, it didn't feel right. It didn't viscerally, internally in my gut feel like, yo, this is, wow, I'm enjoying this. Wow, I'm making progress. Wow, this is guiding me towards the life I want. I didn't feel that. And so one thing I've been good at is, whether it's in a relationship or whatever, once I realize, hey, this ain't the one, I don't let it drag out. Because I realized, actually, from dating, I learned a lesson in dating, which was that once you realize this person ain't the one, most people don't actually break up until something traumatic happens. Somebody cheats on somebody, or you get in such a bad fight. But again, the real risk is mediocrity. Being in a mediocre relationship, it'll drag on for a lot longer, because it's not so bad that you have to quit, nor is it so good you want to stick with it. But it eats up your precious asset, time. And so the one thing I've been pretty good at was, you use your natural strengths to your advantage, right? I'm a kind of an impatient person, meaning once I kind of know which path I want to go, I'm pretty impatient. I'm not that tolerant of just continuing on for a bit longer. It means, like, let's say with exercise, I'm not a very good endurance athlete. I can't just keep willpowering my way through things. But it serves me in this other sense where when something's bad, I'm not afraid to just pull the plug and just make some space. Because the better thing than what most people want is, if you're in a bad relationship, they wait to find the right person, something that's tangible that they can go jump to. Whereas I realize you got to first kind of break up with that person and make space. So I broke up with my job and I made some space for something better to come in, because I knew as long as I'm occupied with this job, nothing better is going to come in, because I'll be busy and I'll be kind of closed-minded to what is potentially awesome.
You know what? We were talking about this even before we started recording. You've kind of had like these different eras of your life. And your 20s can kind of, and this is how you defined it, the startup era. You moved to SF, you tried to create the next big thing, crashed and burned for 8 years straight, got sad, got fat, plus 35 pounds. It looks like you've lost the 35 pounds, by the way.
Working on it.
Pushed through it, got married, sold my company, and hit my goal of becoming a millionaire. And so even if we take it directly from the year of being strategically broke, and you kind of, I don't know, it seems, if anything, that desire to be great, to be one of one, seems like it built. Like, it feels like it was building.
Right.
Can you talk to me about that 8-year period? Every idea crashed and burned for 8 years straight.
Yeah. I forgot to mention one thing. You said, what gave you the courage? I now remember one dude who gave me the courage. I want to give him a shout out. I don't even remember the guy's name, just the idea of him. And hopefully my sharing this will give somebody else out there to pay it forward, right? I can't pay him back. I forgot the guy's name, but I'll pay it forward. My last year of college, I was in a class called Getting Rich. I'd finished all my requirements. I was a pre-med student. I finished all my biophysics, organic chemistry, all that shit. I took the easiest class available on campus because I just wanted a blow-off class, and it was called Getting Rich, taught by this amazing woman named Lisa Keister. And what she did was she invited other speakers to come in from different walks of life, like a hedge fund guy, a startup person who built their own clothing line, or whoever. Every class, you just bring in a speaker to inspire you. It's kind of like a podcast. And one dude came in. He was a hedge fund guy. And he was just like, had so much swag, right? You know, when you just see somebody's aura, you're like, dude, I don't even know what you do, but I need to know more. And so he just had a lot of swag. He was just at peace. And he was completely off script. So he didn't say, hello, everybody, my name is this. Welcome to blah, blah, blah. I'd like to talk to you today about 3 things. He came in and he was like looking around the class, and he told us, he's counting. And somebody goes, what are you counting? And he goes, I'm counting how many of you have Macs versus PCs. He goes, because he goes, in my hedge fund, we're making one big bet. We're going to probably bet, $200 million on Apple stock or going long or short Apple stock. And I want to understand how many young people are using Apple and why. And he started asking, and I was like, dude, I don't know who this guy is, but he just said he's making a multi-$100 million bet. And like, he said, I only have to make one great decision a year, and it's whether to be long Apple or short Apple. I just was fascinated. I never heard anyone talk like this. So I was pretty like encaptured. And one thing he said during that gave me the courage to do that year strategically broke. He goes, at the end of the class, he goes, how many of you here would want to work with me? Boom, every hand shot up. He goes, all right, let's imagine you applied to work with me. You send me a resume. All of you are in the same school. All of you are in the same classes. All of you got a 3 point something GPA. Okay. He goes, the first 3/4 of your resume is going to all look exactly identical. And he goes, by the way, it's not just you, it's you and every kid at every other school, every other university has got the same resume in the top 3/4, which is basically, I don't know shit, but I went to school. He goes, the only differentiator is going to be the very bottom section of your resume called other. He goes, so when I read resumes, I start with the other because I know that the rest of it's going to be more or less the same between 100 candidates. And I'm looking for something that jumps off the page. What else do you do? What do you do for your projects? What did you do for fun? What's a hard thing that you've tried in your life? He goes, and this is America. It doesn't matter if you failed. You get more credit in America for trying something great and failing than for simply just doing a good job at something that's not that ambitious. And he goes, so I'm telling you right now, if you want to work for somebody like me, beef up your other section. And that just stuck with me. I think it was what I wanted to hear. Somebody gave me that permission to just go be a little crazy, go a little off the conventional path. And now that I hire people, I know that that was 100% true. That's the way you differentiate, is to have some unique stories, some missions you went on because you wanted to go on them and you made some shit happen, whether they succeeded or failed. Like, it's how good of a story you can tell around that. That's a differentiator. So that was one of the big things that gave me the courage. So shout out to that guy. And I believe that has turned out to be true for me. All right. Now you asked me about the failure. Can I tell you, I'll take you back to the biggest cringe moment of my life. So my first business idea is to create the Chipotle for sushi. I wanted to create a sushi chain that would go around the country and be the next Chipotle. What Chipotle did for burritos, we'll do for sushi. And I had this idea when I was in school. And so I started it unintentionally like a school project, meaning I entered it into the school's business plan competition. And we Googled how do you write a business plan, and we how do you do an elevator pitch? It's like Shark Tank, right? We did a Shark Tank pitch. And at the end, we ended up winning. So I won this thing that was like a $25,000 thing. We got a big check, like those big printout checks. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm the man. I now know what I want to do in life. I want to be an entrepreneur. And guess what? I'm good. I got stamped by this school thing. So I go off into the world with all this confidence that I'm going to do this project. And this was during my strategically broke year. I did a bunch of adventures, like tried to get on a game show, got on Wheel of Fortune, did this random e-commerce thing. But the big one was we were creating this restaurant chain. And along the way, we get connected with this guy. We reach out to this guy who was the founder of a chain like this called Noodles and Company. It's a nationwide chain. It's a big deal. So this guy's created this multi-billion-dollar company, and he agrees to have a meeting with us. He lives in our city. And so in the kind of like month leading up to this, we had been working on our business plan. And like idiots that we were, we spent all of our time on our plan, meaning we were, and literally, I'll show you a photo of this thing. It's like it was, I think, literally 300 pages. I knew I was coming on the pod today, and I was remembering this story. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's a binder.
Yeah.
Thick. Like, look how many pages are in this business plan, dude. This is full pages. There's like 200 to 300 pages in this thing. And we were like, we thought this is what you do. We were like, we're thinking it through. This shows that we're really giving this our all. We're hard workers, and we're going to dot every I and cross every T. And this was about our go-to-market plan and our business model and our marketing plan and our uniforms, and like all the shit. So we go to this meeting, and this guy sitting across from us, he's done the thing that we wanted to do. And I take out this binder and I put it on the table because he says, all right, guys, so tell me, what are you guys doing? What's the plan? Oh, what's the plan? Boom. Business plan on the table. And I remember thinking in my head, it was like, I just gave the best pickup line. Like, oh my God, like I just nailed it. Watch how impressed he's going to be with me. And he looks at it. He's a little bit like, what is this? So he opens it up. He starts flipping through it. And I'm like, he's just flipping. He's not really reading. Okay, but like, that's fine. And he closes it, and he he starts talk. He almost starts and stops his sentence 3 times. Like he's just trying to figure out the words to not just absolutely destroy these 21-year-olds while also being like, what are y'all doing? And I remember, I'll never forget what he said. He goes, this is real life, right? Like this isn't school anymore. You like, what are you doing? This is not a school project. I'm not here to grade your paper and give you an A. And that means you did a good job. Like you want to start a restaurant. You do that by finding a location and opening the restaurant. Like how many months have you spent on this? Cause we had been told we had spent 6 months on this. He goes, you spent 6 months on a plan? And he was trying to, I honestly wish he was just as harsh as he probably felt. He tried to be polite, which was even more humiliating because I realize at this point, oh man, whatever we're doing is a huge mistake. I thought this was awesome. This is clearly not the right answer. This is not awesome. And he's so like, we are so far off that he's just trying to be polite for the next 15, 20 minutes before he can finally just leave. And he's trying to nudge us there, but I wish he was just like ripped us because that would have honestly felt less humiliating if he was just like, you guys are on the complete wrong path. And so long story short, he basically identifies it as like, you're overthinking, over planning. You're just playing dress up. You think you're doing business, but you're just talking about business. You're not doing it. And so we walk out of there and I'm devastated. We go home and we throw ourselves a pity party. We were just like making nachos and just like, we can't even talk about what just happened. Like we're not even ready to just discuss it. My roommate just puts on the TV and he's watching Seinfeld. And this is just one of those like serendipitous moments where there's an episode of Seinfeld. And I don't even watch Seinfeld, by the way, but this was the episode. There's this episode where George goes into this restaurant. I don't know if do you watch Seinfeld?
No, I don't.
So you don't need to get this story. I'll send you the clip, but there's this scene where George goes into the restaurant where they eat every day. Like, like sitcoms, they always go to the same place. And he's just miserable. He's like, I don't know where the specific ththings he said. I remember he goes, I don't know where I went wrong. I had so much potential. I squandered it. He's like, I'm living at home with my parents. I'm going bald. I have no girlfriend. Like he was just like, hit this moment where he's like, where did I go wrong? I thought I was smart. I thought I was good. I thought I had so much potential, but I've screwed it up. And he goes, everything in my life is the opposite of what I want it to be. And then the lady comes up to take his order and she's like, okay, George, for you, the usual tuna on toast. He goes, yeah. And he goes, no tuna on toast. Tuna on toast has got me nowhere in life. I want the opposite of tuna on toast. From now on, I'm doing the opposite of everything I used to do. Chicken salad. And he orders a chicken salad. And then the lady's like, okay. And then she leaves. And then the Elaine next to him, she's like, George, that girl's looking at you. You should go say hi. And he goes, go say hi? Well, she's not going to talk to a guy like me, balding, living at home with his parents. Like, that's not who I don't approach girls like that. And then Seinfeld goes, well, do the opposite. You said that every decision you make is the wrong decision. So by definition, do the exact opposite. It'll be the right thing to do. And so he goes up to the girl and she's like kind of interested in him. And I saw this and I was like, yo, that's it. We're doing the opposite. Like no more tuna on toast. What is my chicken salad? And I realized my tuna on toast was, I thought I was so scared of actually failing with that business that I was procrastinating in a fancy way. I was planning, I was overthinking, I was analyzing, I was talking to people, I was trying to meet mentors. I was doing all these things that looked like work, but weren't actually work at all. And in that moment, like I remember that day being like, all right, what's the opposite? The opposite is I can't make myself smarter. I can't make myself have more experience, but I can just become like a man of action. I'm going to take so much action. The opposite of overthinking and planning and doubting and being afraid is being fearless and taking a bunch of action. And so from that day forward, we just started just doing the exact opposite. So threw the plan away, immediately started, like we launched within a month. We all of a sudden had like real customers, real money coming through the door. And we started doing things. And even though we still were sort of clueless and didn't have quite the business skills, that one decision to just like, all right, whatever I've been doing has not been getting me the result I want. Take that humiliation and decide like either that dude clowning me, either that happened to me just now and I'm the victim and I'm going to feel really bad about myself, or that happened for me and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. What would it mean for that to be the best thing ever happened to me? It would change what I'm doing in a way that made me more successful. And that sort of going from a guy who was an overthinker to the extreme bias for action was like the first big switch that changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I resonate with it so much. We were talking about the clothing brand before we started recording. The funny thing, even in my own life, the first business. So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur from like 14, 15 years old. The first business I started, like real business, was in university, and it was a clothing line. And similar to you with the 300-page business plan, I was like looking up Air Jordan, I was looking up Nike and Adidas, and I went into like this 6 month development phase for the perfect t-shirt. And
Yep.
like I can tell the way you're nodding your head, you already know how this turns out. The t-shirt never released.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
it never it never happened. And you know what? When I listen to your recount these stories and experiences, I think you're such a phenomenal uh, storyteller, and there's like this humor, even in the failures. There's like this humor to it. And I know for me, one of the things that I went through when I started that clothing line, because tried to do it like 2 or 3 times in university, same result every time: overthinking, procrastinating. And we're gonna get later in the episode, we're gonna get into how people can start and build like $1 million companies. But it was that same process. And I remember there was a moment after I graduated, I started to have like real doubt about it. I was like, can I actually build something, or is it always just going to be this theoretical thing? I'm actually really more of a student, and I like to like prepare and do all this other stuff. Like, I've never made money online. Like, I can't do this. And so I'm curious for you, in that 8 year period where you're starting things and it's crashing and burning or it's not working, what is the peak moment of self doubt when it's like, I understand the entrepreneurial rise of like, you always believe that you can do the thing. But I know firsthand, we all have those quiet moments where like your brain starts talking to you just a little bit, and the voice is like, it's turned up just a notch, like the volume knob's a notch higher than it usually is. And it's like, actually, you can't really do that thing, can you? I'm curious, what was that for you? What was the self-doubt?
I mean, there's a bunch. I think that's one of the things that, again, like the movies don't show you. The movies they shorten and simplify. So it's like I had the doubt, and then I overcame, and then I didn't have the doubt again. It's like no. Real life is doubts creep up, doubts creep up, doubts creep up. Right. The more you go, the doubts creep up. There's people that are super successful that, of course, the doubts continue to creep up. It's not something that just like you vaporize and never goes away, but you do learn how to handle it, B, that it gets a little quieter over time. And basically, your belief starts to drown out your disbelief, right? You start to doubt your doubt. And that's like a key principle. It's like, I need to start doubting my doubt. There's only one doubt I need to have, is about my doubt. And so you start to get a little stronger. So when it comes, it doesn't just blow you over and just knock you down, right? It's like, all right, that wind is going to come from time to time. That weather does change, but I need to build up that strength over time. So, all right, what are the moments of maxed out? Like, first one was that moment I told you when we went home, the Seinfeld thing. There's one part I didn't tell you, which was like, it's like, when you have a near death experience, like your life flashed before your eyes. It's like, here's the entrepreneurial version of near death experience. Meaning, at that time, we were living in my co-founder's aunt's basement. Aunt Patty, bless her heart, let us live in her basement rent free. And the funny thing was, we were like, we got this business plan. We won this competition, blah, blah, blah. We thought we were like hot shit. And she was like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur too. Like, oh, cool. What do you do, Aunt Patty? And she's like, and she was making these bottles. So she had these, like, she would take a wine bottle and she would put like Christmas lights in it and decorate it. And so we were like, okay, that's cool, Aunt Patty. That's a cool little thing. Where we were in the basement was her storage. So we saw like one of the, like, basically where we slept was on this couch right there. Like kind of the big storage room was full of like hundreds of these that she had made. So when I first saw that, I was like, damn, she must be really moving some weight here that she's got so much inventory. Aunt Patty, how many of these you sold? Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm still, we don't have the full collection yet. I was like, oh, she's not even selling these. She just makes them. She's She was doing what we were doing, playing house, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. We used to laugh like, oh man, Aunt Patty, dude, she just keeps making these bottles. Like she hasn't even sold one yet. Like, what is she doing this for? But she's having fun. It's all good. When we came home from that meeting and I walked down to that basement, I looked at that room with the bottles. I was like, fuck, I'm Aunt Patty. We've been doing the same sort of dress up, just in a different game and talking ourselves into why we were doing all this stuff for months. And actually, turns out we should have just been going and trying to sell one bottle. Like, go get one customer, see how that goes. Then try to get two, then try to get 10. Like, that's the real game. And just like she was avoiding that because she was afraid of failing, we were procrastinating and avoiding it too. That was the first moment. Am I really Aunt Patty? The second moment came years later. So I've moved to San Francisco and I get a dream job. I'm working for this guy, Michael Birch. He's a billionaire. He did the thing I wanted to do. He went to Silicon Valley. He built tech companies, multiple of them, had multiple hits, basically became a billionaire. And now he was running like his own studio and he hires me. I get this job and I get to work for him. Dream job. Not only that, a few months in, he actually pulls me aside, names me CEO. Longer story, but I'm now running the show. So like Willy Wonka gave Charlie the keys to the chocolate factory. I got the keys. So here's where doubt comes in, that again, it's like a new flavor that I hadn't really read about or heard about. I had heard or read a lot about nobody believed in me. I had no funding. I had no resources and I had to scrap and claw my way. I'm sitting here like, this billionaire believes in me. He gave me the funding. I got 20 engineers here looking at me asking, what are we going to do, boss? I have the nicest office in San Francisco. We got a private chef cooking us lunch every day. There's a massage room and a masseuse that comes in on Fridays to give us massage. We have everything you would want in like the resources, the abilities, the belief in me. And then year one, I don't really like hit this breakout company. And year two, I don't hit a breakout company. Year three, we're pivoting. Year four, we're changing the plan. Year five, and basically 6 years go by and I'm just like, I'm mortified, man. Like I've been given such a golden opportunity and I realize that I'm squandering it. And on one hand, I'm like, I think it's because we're trying to create the next Twitter, the next Snapchat, the next YouTube. Like it's a hard thing to do. But on the other hand, I'm like, we're not doing it. Like I'm failing. I'm failing at this. And I definitely had the doubts. I had the doubt, which is like, man, if you can't succeed when you have all the resources, what's your excuse? It's only on you. You're not lacking anything. There's only one place to point. And again, it was a moment where it's like, all right, what's the meaning I'm going to give this? Like I, sort of have one of those long nights where you're like, all right, what do I make of this? Either the meaning of this is I suck, quit. You're not an entrepreneur. Just give up. All those doubts you have. You're 30 years old. You wanted to be Forbes 30 under 30. You wanted to be a millionaire by 30. You had all these goals. You wrote them on your sticky note. You put them on the mirror. You did your affirmations. You did your planning. You did your vision board. You did all the shit that you're supposed to do. You're trying to manifest this, and it ain't manifesting. It ain't happening. And so I had a moment where I had to have a conversation with myself. What does this mean? Does this mean that you're not cut out for this, or does this mean that my road is going to take as long as it needs to take. And all I need is one business to work will change everything. And for one business to work, I just got to make one good decision. I got to have one good handshake. I got to have one key conversation. I'm only one away. And a big lesson for me came from a Tony Robbins event that I went to. Tony has a story he tells about learning golf. He's like, I tried to take up golf and I get a coach because that's how you get better. I got a coach. And he's like, I go and I hit the golf ball and it, slices to the left. So I swing again, slices to the right. The coach is sitting there behind me and he's watching, but he's not saying anything. And it's slicing. I'm in the lake. I'm in the forest. I'm in the trees. I'm in the bunker. I'm in the water. I'm everywhere except for where it's supposed to go. And he turns to the coach finally after 30 minutes. He's like, are you going to say anything? Like, what am I paying you for? And the coach is like, even though you're slicing the ball all the way, you're way off track in terms of your result, you're actually only 2 millimeters away. And he's like, 2 millimeters? Did you see where that ball went? It's 100 yards in the wrong direction. He goes, no. Do you know that when your golf club hits the golf ball, the angle that it's hitting it at, if you go 1 millimeter over, it's going to create like this huge like change in trajectory. And so you're actually only 2 millimeters off in the angle that you're hitting this ball. If you just make that 2 millimeter shift, it'll go straight down the center. It'll land on the green. And so, and Tony was like, first of all, golf, most frustrating sport ever. But like that lesson, that was the gift that golf gave me, was this idea that even when your results are so far off, often it's just you're just a 2 millimeter shift away. And he started seeing this everywhere. He went to the world's best plastic surgeon in LA. He does all the celebrity stuff. And he goes, tell me, what's the difference between an absolutely beautiful face and an average face? And the guy said, it's 2 millimeters. It's 2 millimeters between, like, I don't know, it's like the lip in your nose, it's the distance in your eyes. And all I do is I just make these tiny incisions and I just adjust things by, like, half a millimeter, half a millimeter. It's maximum of 2 millimeters. That's the difference between stunning beauty and an average looking face. And he's like, started seeing this phenomenon everywhere. And basically, it's a very empowering belief to have. And so I kind of took that doubt and was like, yo, okay, even though my evidence is that my result is way off track right now, I want millions in the bank, I got zeros in the bank, right? I want success and sell companies or exit, but I'm nowhere near that right now. But I just told myself, no, you're 2 millimeters away. And I started asking myself, what is the 2 millimeter adjustment I need to make in order to get there?
Mm. That is such a good story, and it's so true. What's interesting? So I recently signed and like moved back into New York. But before this period, I had moved from New York to New Jersey to build my business, to build the podcast. And I remember when I first, my mum lives in New Jersey. So when I first moved back home, I tell my mum, I'm like, in the beginning when you're doing something, you feel so optimistic. You think everything's going to happen quick.
Of course.
You're like, this is going to work out so fast. And so I told my mom, like, I'll be here for a couple months, then I'm going to be back in the city, like where I belong, like in the city,
Right.
Being the guy, like the entrepreneur podcast guy. And so I remember I moved back in April, and I thought by like near the beginning of summer, I'll be back. It's a good time in New York in the summer. And I remember we get into the summer and I've made no progress. Like I'm working like a dog, like I'm working all the time. No progress really to the money goal that will let me move back and get the apartment in New York. And then we go through summer, and we're now like at the end of summer. It's like September, October. This is last year. And it's like slowly the days, it starts to get darker at an earlier stage. Like the days get shorter. You're starting to get into winter. And it's like settling into my consciousness that I'm like, this is it. Like there is no escape back to New York. Like there's still no progress being made. Like this is it. And I remember around like really when it's turning to winter and it's getting cold here on the East Coast, so like kind of like that November kind of stage, I was like, maybe I just made a mistake, man. Like maybe I was just like idiotic. Like I was a fool to believe that I could do this thing. Like everyone told me don't do a podcast. Like it's so hard to do. And what you say is so correct because, and it depends what you believe in. I don't know if it's God or the universe. I don't know what it is. But it's like the moment that you feel the most distant from reaching your goal is actually like the closest you are. And I remember there was like, I was having that real self-doubt where you're kind of thinking, should I make another decision? Like, should I be like, just get a job or like make the complete pivot? And then a few weeks later, we have our first episode go viral and it's like, but what you say is so correct. It's like when you're in kind of like that dark moment, the one where you're really thinking about pulling the plug, it's actually like you're the closest to achieving the thing. And if you can keep pushing, just even for a few more days, a few more weeks, it's when it turns.
Right.
And so here's where
by the way,
go ahead.
Like, this is why doing other things and like doing other things that are not business is sometimes the best teachers for business. So like if you work out and you're going to do a set of 10, which reps are the ones where you build the muscle? It's reps 9 and 10. It's reps 11 and 12, actually. It's after the 10. It's the ones where you hit the max. It's the ones where your muscles are near failure, right? You're feeling that max burn. And it's just those last couple reps is the one where the gain starts to happen. And everything else was the cost of doing business to get there. It's also useful for patience. So like you can go to the gym tomorrow and have the greatest workout of your life and eat perfectly clean and go look in the mirror or step on the scale and nothing will change. And like in working out, we kind of understand this. Like, okay, I got to do this consistently. It's going to take time. Like the actions today, even though I don't see the result today, it's this necessary thing to get the result eventually. And like that's exactly what's going on in business. Is like you're going to keep pounding against the wall. Maybe it's one idea, the second idea, one strategy, another strategy, one marketing message, another marketing message, 10 phone calls, 20 phone calls. Like you don't know when it is that you actually break through and see the result, but you just have to keep doing the thing. And so like when you realize like, okay, cool. Yeah. Just in the same way, I can't go work out and have a 6-pack tomorrow. I got to have this mindset. I think Naval said this beautifully. He said, impatience with action and patience with results. Like if I could get one message sort of tattooed on my computer screen, because every time I get impatient with the result, it's like you want to have patience with the result while simultaneously having the impatience with the action. So you never want to wait to take action, but you must be willing to wait for the result. And I saw this also just with my friends. Like businesses fail. Like you hear all these stats about 90% of businesses fail. No, 95% of business don't make past year 3. Whatever the results are, the stats are. But the funny thing is, if you live in a place like San Francisco where you're with 100 people who are all trying to start businesses, it's true that any one business that they start has like a 90% chance of failure. But if I look at my group of people who I moved to San Francisco and I met there, that 100 people, 10 years later, almost everyone is successful. It's like the odds flip. So it's like businesses fail, startups fail, but founders don't. Over like a 10-year period, sure enough, we all broke through except for the people that gave up in year 2, year 3, year 4, and just stopped, which is totally fine if that's not what they wanted to do. But it's amazing how high the success rate goes when you take a 10-year view. And I think this is a very important lesson. Whatever stage you're at is like one of the core strategic advantages you can have is to not take a 1-year scoreboard, but to say, what actions would I take today to maximize where I'm at in 10 years? So what are the skills I would learn? What are the choices I would make? The projects I would work on? What things would I say yes to and say no to? Because let's say when I was 21, 22, I saw my friends getting jobs. They were getting paid good. They got to have an apartment with a bed that wasn't an air mattress. And they got to have all these things. On a 1-year basis or a 2-year basis, I was way behind. But I knew on a 10-year basis, I would end up ahead. I just had that delusion, that self-belief that that's the way that the world works. If I do this and I give myself a long enough scoreboard, and by the way, it's like, oh, dude, if I'm 21, that's 31. I'm still super young by the time that happens. If I was 30 and I said, okay, by 40, I would have it happen, it's still worth it because that was the life I wanted. And it didn't matter if it was going to take me 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. Like I was going to get the thing I wanted rather than change what I wanted. It just seemed like that was not an option to just change what you wanted,
Yeah. You know what? It's like it's motivated by this love of the game. And I remember even when I was living at my mum's house, there was this weird joy in it, which was like I was working the hardest I've ever worked to get paid the least I've ever got paid. But there was something in just the process and the act of what I was doing that I was like, it keeps you going just a little bit longer. Were you going to say
Well, that
something?
makes perfect sense. I mean, if you want to know how to be happy, it's not that complicated. Progress equals happiness. If you feel a sense of progress in your life, you feel a sense of movement towards the thing you want, you will feel happy. It doesn't even matter how far you are from it. You will feel joy on a day-to-day basis in that progress. And by the way, that also means if you want to be happier, start to notice your progress and celebrate your progress. Don't beat yourself up for how far the journey you have left. No, to be like, hell yeah, man, I made a step forward. I did today differently than I would have done yesterday, right? I got one more one more rep in, one more unit of progress, one more fan, 10 more subscribers, whatever it is, right? Like celebrate your progress. It will make you happier and it will keep you going. And I think these things are so underrated. Most people are so hard on themselves, myself included. Originally, I was this way. I used to really beat myself up. And I used to focus on the lack of result, which just made me feel miserable. And feeling miserable is not really a great place to be creative from. It's not really a great way to have willpower or determination. It's not a great way to be a great problem solver when you feel, miserable about your lack of result. And instead, noticing the abundance of progress I'm making. And this, I'm doing this now with like, health, for example. Like I'm self-actualized on the money side now and all this. The new one for me is my body. How do I have healthy habits? And I'm like, I could beat myself up because let's take a simple example. I I know I'm supposed to eat this salad, but I DoorDash McDonald's instead, and I'm eating those fries. It would be so easy to beat myself up about eating those fries. But if I even do one thing differently, if I'm like, all right, normally I would have housed this whole container, but I'm gonna stop with 15 left, 15 fries left. I can count that as a win. I can count that as progress because that is different than how I would have done it before.
Mm.
It is I made a different decision. That means I'm making progress towards my goal, and I can just keep finding those wins, which keeps me like feeling good while I'm doing it. And feeling good is not just like a nice thing to have; it's actually a strategy. When you're feeling good, you are more creative. You are more persuasive. When you're feeling good, you are more fun to work with. You are more uh, resourceful in solving problems. And so feeling good is actually a strategy if you want to be a winner. It's not just like this other thing. Like people think success is over here and emotions are over here. No, 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 no. They feed together in a very major way.
Yeah. I like that. Feeling good is actually a strategy if you want to be a winner. That's good. Maybe that should be on your t-shirt.
There's a TED Talk, some dude called the Happiness Advantage, some Harvard guy, and he was basically showed this. Everybody thinks if I achieve X, I'll then be happy. But he found that people who were happier by default achieved more.
Mm.
And he called it the happiness advantage. That happiness is not just like some side thing. It's actually for all the super rational, analytical types out there, the type A success driven folks. Use all the tools in your tool belt: enthusiasm, happiness, joy, playfulness. Those are all tools to be more successful too. They're not just like other. They're not just like for kids or for what I do when I retire. It's like that's how you win, actually.
Yeah. You know what? It's so good. I wanna get into from observing you. So like I've been obviously watching My First Million for a number of years, and you have kind of like this unique approach to how you start and build companies. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm being very selfish at this point. I want to know the approach. Like I want to know the framework, how you go about doing it. And so we spoke about eras earlier on, these kind of like eras that you've had in your life. And you go ages 30 to 36, the dad era, best era of my life so far. Had 3 kids, started my podcast, which is the best business ever. Started 3 to 4 companies. They all worked and invested in 100 plus more. Started 3 to 4 companies. They all worked. And so I've kind of seen this play out in lifetime, at least with some of these businesses, like the Milk Road, for example. And so I kind of want to get into your kind of framework and your approach to building these they're all $1 million companies. And so I'm curious because you have so many things that I'm sure come across your desk, like so many ideas, or you could partner with this person, or like there's this new opportunity in AI, like you could do this. Like, let's start here. When you're thinking about starting a company, how do you identify opportunity? Like, how do you think about the thing that you're going to go in on? Okay, quick switch up. I want to speak to everyone that is pursuing something right now, some sort of dream or ambition that every single day you are grinding towards. 12 months ago, I remember sitting in the guest bedroom of my mum's house. It was October 31st, and I remember the date vividly because it was Halloween. At that time, I'd been living at home for over 6 months, and nothing was going to plan. I remember that evening, multiple group chats on WhatsApp were just on fire. Let's meet here for the pregame. What are you wearing? What's your costume? Do you have some spare fake blood? All of my friends in the city were going out. And I remember sitting there in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey, 3 hours from the city, and just missing my old life. And at that moment, I felt like a complete idiot. Who was I to think that I could start a successful podcast? I could leave my job and build a business. I'd never done this before. I felt like a fool and that I was delusional. And right as I said that final part, my mindset switched. I was delusional. and I was going to stay delusional until the end. I was going to stay delusional until it worked. 1 month later, our first video went viral and everything changed. The message of stay delusional has remained with me since that day. And so when it came to making our first product, I knew that that had to be the message. So only 50 of these will be sold as part of our first drop. And if you want to be part of it, if you want to be part of this community, this movement that's staying delusional to your dreams, then go to the link in the description, sign up at callum.bio, and you will stay informed of when these t-shirts drop and you'll be able to get them. So thank you so much for listening. Let's go back to the show.
It's a great question. I mean, you said, how do you approach this? I would say, let's start with the big and then get specific. So the big picture, what's the big picture overarching rule? The overarching rule for me has become this: build cool shit with cool people. Very simple. Build cool shit with cool people. And this is important because during my 20s, when you talked about failing, crashing and burning for 8 years. And by the way, just to zoom in on that for a second, 8 years is a long time. That's, like that's 2 Obamas. That's 2 Olympic cycles. That's every year telling myself this is the year for 8 straight years and then it not being the year. That's a long time. Okay. So that really sucked. And it felt like, basically at that time, it felt like everything I tried didn't work. And then the last, I would say 6 years, everything I've tried has worked. All right. So what actually shifted? The first 8 years, I was super opportunistic. So I was only thinking like, where's the opportunity? I wasn't really vetting for the thing I just said, build cool shit with cool people. I was first and foremost trying to find what's the answer. And I was so stressed about what's the answer, what's the opportunity, what's the idea, what's that foolproof, proven way to do this. And so I'll tell you kind of what shifted. So the first thing was in that philosophy of cool shit with cool people. It starts with cool people because you don't know what cool shit is actually at the beginning. But cool people you can actually have a pretty good gut sense of. Get around them. So the first thing I did was I moved from Australia to San Francisco. Literally, proximity is power. Being around other people who either have what you have or are chasing the same thing that you want is the fastest way to get better because it's like osmosis. Just by being around them, you're going to get smarter every day. All the nooks and the crannies and the gaps of your day will be filled with either inspirational stories of somebody you know who does something that makes it feel more possible for you, or maybe a learning or a lesson or a tactic or a tip that they share. So I picked up and I moved. I literally just changed my area code. I got a phone number for Silicon Valley. I moved here with no job, no plan, no nothing. I moved to a house with 6 people who were all startup founders. And I was like, I'm going to live in this house. And this is how I've gotten good at anything. When I wanted to get good at poker, I lived in a house with a bunch of people who were grinding poker every day. When I wanted to get good at business, I moved into a house with a bunch of people who were trying to get good at business. So move, go make friends, become the dumbest guy you know. That's the general strategy when you want to get around cool people. Be around people who are, high energy. They're weird. They don't care what other people think. They do what they want. They live life on their own terms. And they're fast learners. There's a great Warren Buffett story about this. He says, he goes to talk at this classroom and he says, all right, here's an exercise. Everybody take out a piece of paper. I want you to write down the name of another student in this class. You get to pick one student and you're going to get to have 10% of their lifetime earnings, but you can only pick one. Who do you pick? So they all write down a name. And then he asked them, he said, okay, let's talk about the criteria before you tell me the name. Who here picked the kid who has the highest grades? Almost nobody. He said, who here picked the kid who's got the richest parents? Okay, one or two people raised their hand for that one. He says, all right, what else? The rest of you guys, what did you pick on? And then basically they said a combination of 3 things. And this is the Buffett criteria for picking partners or picking people you want to be around. High intelligence, but you don't need to be the smartest, but you can't be dumb, right? So you want people who are sharp, clever at figuring things out specifically, not like just book smart, memorize things, but good at figuring things out. The next one is energy. So people who do projects that they are interested in and that are fun to be around, that are enthusiastic about the things that they're chasing. They're not lazy. They're not half-assed with the action. They're not easily discouraged or demoralized. They keep going. They got high energy. They got a high motor. And the last one is integrity. And he's like, if they don't have integrity, forget the rest. They're a crook or they're going to hurt people in the end. Don't do it. And so that became a very good filter for me of who I wanted to be around. So that was the very first thing I shifted, which was I started hanging out with a different set of people. I started hanging out with people who had the result I wanted or were chasing the result I wanted. I got into group chats. I got into mastermind groups. I lived with them. I spent all my time with them, at dinners with them. And I just wanted to become a sponge. I wanted to become, if I'm the average of the 5 people I spend the time with, I need to change the 5 people I'm spending my time with. In my free time, I changed my information diet. I started watching podcasts and YouTube videos. I swapped it out. It's like, all right, that Netflix time, now this is learning time, right? That mindless, Kardashian stuff, that's going to become people who have the thing I want or are chasing the thing I want. And I started to identify a bunch of cool people. That's the first part. They did 2 things. They looped me into projects that they were doing so I could join their project or I could invest in their project, or they just taught me like different paths to success. There are like a million different ways to win. When I started, I didn't know of any. As I've grown, I've realized, wow, there are actually a million ways to win. At the end of the day, it's just going to be about picking which one's the right one for me. But the first exercise of getting around the right people is they will increase the number of options on the menu of different ways to possibly win. So for example, you said, I've sold a newsletter for millions of dollars. Well, guess what? I used to hang out with Sam Parr, who built The Hustle, who sold The Hustle for tens of millions of dollars. So I knew that was a blueprint and I used it. I used that blueprint. I did it for crypto. I built the largest crypto newsletter in 1 year and then we sold it. And it was like easier than all the other business I did because I was around somebody who had taught me that blueprint. E-commerce. I have an e-commerce business that will do, 20 million plus in revenue this year, profitable bootstrap business. Well, how did I come up with the idea for that? I was hanging out with people who had made their money that way. I was interested in a guy who told me he had made 20 million. His dog ramp business would do 20 million that year. I thought, what a weird idea. Dog ramp, man. Like literally like for dogs to get up on the bed or down from the couch. And he was selling dog ramps. He sold $20 million of dog ramps. And I was like, damn, if this guy could sell $20 million of dog ramps, I could do anything in e-commerce and win. And I used to hang out at his house and understand what he does. And he taught me Facebook ads and he taught me how to do it. And I was just a sponge. I wanted to and I would help these people, right? Like they wanted help in other areas. I would help them. They would help me. That's kind of the core mantra. So when you ask what shifted and how did I start to have success in these different areas, it started with changing my people that I hung out with and how I hung out with them and paying attention to it. All right. So then the other part is doing cool shit. So everybody has a different taste profile and that is your advantage. Nobody has the same taste as you. Nobody could build the podcast that you've built because you think a certain thing is cool and you explored that to the edge of the frontier of that. I've seen how you prepared for this podcast. You called me and then you worked with me on the story and you said, no, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this. And you know what really resonates is this. And you sent me this thing about here's the listener avatar. It's Darren and he's at his job and here's how Darren is feeling. You have explored that. So the do cool shit is dabble, try a bunch of things until you find the things that interest you. Let what's exciting be the guide, meaning the excitement should be the thing it's like your compass. It tells you which way to go. Just follow your excitement. Your excitement is a thing that is unique to you and it will lead you to a place that it won't lead everybody else, which means there's less competition. And your excitement will also let you keep going beyond just the 9 to 5. Like when I'm excited about something, dude, I'm up all night reading about it, thinking about it, talking about it, doing it. So I have a competitive advantage. I can get good really fast if I do things that I'm interested in because I won't just do it during my work time. It's also my playtime. So that became the next shift I made. I created this podcast. I did not expect the podcast to be successful. I didn't expect to have, millions of downloads and make millions of dollars for talking. It ended up that way because I just followed the thing that was exciting and interesting to me. And I followed it to like the nth degree. And I just thought about it all the time. And I worked on it all the time. And not because I was trying to grind or trying to work hard. I was just interested in it. It didn't feel like that hard to work on it. It felt fun to work on it. And so I just kept doing it. And because of that, I ended up in this really unique place with the podcast being, this amazing business where like, I can't emphasize this enough. I get paid millions of dollars to talk to my friend for 2 hours a week. Like there is no better job than that. I spent my 20s seeking a great business. And in the moment where I stopped trying to find the opportunity, I just said, what's the most fun thing I could do right now? What's the most interesting thing I could do right now? That's when I actually found the best business I ever built. Right. And so there's example after example of that. I'll pause though, so you can take this wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, no, that was so good. Even though you gave away my secrets, I didn't love that, but you gave away the secret source of how I do this. Um, no, what you said is so good, and you spoke about excitement. And I remember reading this, I believe it was on Twitter, or maybe I heard it on a podcast. But I don't know, I just have a feeling that you also saw what I'm about to say, which is was it Paul Graham that said it? I don't remember. But the basically what was said is that if you're looking for business opportunities, if you're looking for your $1 million idea, just look at what are the nerds getting excited about. That was like the framework. It was like, so for example, 20, 30 years ago, the nerds were getting really excited about this thing called the internet and like
Yep.
all of this stuff. And for everyone else, they were like, this is just like a fad. This is going to play out. Like it's not going to work. But the nerds were fascinated by it. Um,
Yeah, the
and
phrase is from Chris Dixon. He says, "What the nerds do on the weekend, we will all be doing in 10 years."
yeah,
So back in 2012, when the nerds were like, "There's a cryptography coin, cryptography proof by Satoshi Nakamoto," right? Like, it's like, what are these words you're saying, dude? Like this thing called Bitcoin. It's this internet money, and they were interested in it because of the novelty. They didn't all expect to get rich off of it. They just thought it was so cool, so interesting. I had friends in my office that were telling me about this. They were doing it in their spare time, and I was like, "Guys, come on, can we pay attention to something serious here?"
mm,
And it's like, stop talking about this Ethereum. I don't know what the hell that is. Sounds like, the biggest dork shit I've ever heard. And it's like, actually, what I should have been doing is paying attention to what my nerdiest friends were interested in. Or even better, lean into what I am nerdy about, right?
mm,
Watching what other nerds do is great for investing. Figuring out what your inner nerd is and unleashing your own inner nerd is how you come up with your own projects, your own ideas that are going to work for you. And by the way, I think this is like one thing that everybody gets wrong because they go follow your passion. And passion is this loaded word that's like love. And when you tell somebody follow your passion, the problem is not that they're not following it. They just don't know what the hell they're passionate about. They don't even know, is this stuff that I like? Is that my passion? Comic books, is that my passion? Like what are you talking about? And so passion is this loaded word. People don't really even understand it. They don't know what their passions are. And so they don't know what to do with it. Excitement or interest is just a much less loaded word. It's like dating, where passion is like marriage. And dating, I think, is a really good analogy. So for the first 10 years, I would say expect to just dabble and date. So pick something. You don't know how long you're going to, it might be a fling you do for 2 weeks. It might be something you do for 6 months. It might be something you do for 2 years. You don't know. Do it while you're interested in it. As long as you're interested in it, keep going. And every project you do is like dating. It will have its ups and its downs. And ultimately, it'll teach you what you want out of, when you're dating. When you date somebody, you learn what you really want out of a partner. And you also learn, man, where am I a bad partner for other people? Where do I need to level up? And that's exactly what picking these projects and sort of dating is going to do in the business career, in your business life too, which is it will have some fun. It'll have some ups. It'll have some downs, but ultimately it teaches you what types of projects you actually want to be doing and you like doing. And it'll show you where you're weak and where you need to get stronger. It'll show you where you're strong that you should actually double down and lean into. Nobody teaches you this. Nobody tells you this, but like, that's the one thing I would really encourage. Like, when my kids are 21, my kids are 25 years old, I'm going to make sure that like, you need to be in a season of dabbling. Like you need to be dating around with different projects and different industries and different company types, different careers to find the thing that's like lighting you up. You're not expected to just know your passion up front. Like you figure it out by just following your interests. And sure enough, like over time, you get to figure out what's your thing.
mm. You know what? You use the word seasons, and I actually think that for someone that's looking to go from living like quite an average experience to something great, something that's one of one, the mindset of thinking about things as seasons is extremely important, at least in my experience. I remember one of the things, and this goes back to my experience being at living with my mum for a year as I was building my business, was I would have these like frustrating moments. I remember one time actually. So I used to go into New York to record the show. So I'd be living in Jersey, like in the suburbs, in the middle of nowhere, for like the majority of my week. And then I'd have like this one experience of going into New York, which I loved. And there was one time I had just recorded and I was heading home. And for some reason, I was just around where my old office was, like the company that I used to work at. And I remember seeing it's weird, like it was like I was watching my old life. Like I was seeing all these people, like the way that they were walking to the subway, the way that they looked, the way that they were dressed, like it was exactly everything that I used to do on the day to day. And I had this moment, Alex Hormozy actually talks about this, which is like when you're on this journey and this path, there's this point in the middle where like you're no longer where you started, but you're not at the end. And you're kind of in the middle. And you kind of have these situations where you start to look back to where you were in the beginning. And you get almost like wistful about it. You're like, oh, you start like reminiscing about your old life, even if you didn't necessarily even like it. But it's just like nostalgic and there's a comfort to it. And one of the things that really helped me in that moment where I was just like, I almost wanted things to return to how they were. I started thinking about my life as seasons of like, this is my season of experimenting, of failing continuously, of like having to grind and push through this thing. But just as this is a season of work, there will be a season where it's the opposite of this, where it's like fun, where things are working, all of those things. And it just kind of gives you that perspective. Like to your point earlier, instead of thinking on like a year basis, it just widens the time horizon. Um, and it was so impactful for me. You know what? Here's where I want to go next. One of the things that's been really cool with watching your journey and how you build businesses, you and you know what's funny actually? I'll say this and I'll get your reaction and see if it's actually true. You almost have like this spontaneous approach of building businesses. This is how I think about it, which is like I saw the early editions of the Milk Road, the newsletter that you built and sold for millions of dollars. I saw the early editions of that, and it did not feel like a business at all. It just felt like you were just writing something that was interesting to you. And then at a certain point, it turns into a daily newsletter. And then at a certain point, you're writing an email saying that we sold it and like, how happy you were with the outcome. And so can you talk to people about how do you kind of like, what does almost like that testing phase look like to then going to, wait, this is actually a business. This isn't just a fun thing for me anymore. I've done the thinking of like the numbers and I've started to strategize about how this could work long term. Like, can you get into the practicalities of that?
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I agree with your seasons thing for what it's worth. I think it's a super useful tool. Give every season a name. What's your question? So I am spontaneous with it. I don't know if I would recommend that to everybody. Like impulsiveness. I'm an impulsive dude and I just do whatever feels right in the moment. There are cons to that. I have started businesses, even ones that work, that I kind of regret starting because I'm like, it's like having a kid. It's years of commitment to like doing something when you have a successful business. And so I don't know if I would recommend my approach to most people. I don't even know if I would recommend it to myself. Let's put it that way. But what's your question? What are you really getting at? You're kind of trying to ask, how do you know when an interesting experiment is actually a thing or you should turn into a business? Is that what you're getting at? What's the
Yeah.
heart of the
Like
question?
when does it become this is just an interesting thing that I'm doing to this is actually real, there's something here. Like I almost want to know like what's the back of the napkin math that's even happening that you're like, "Oh, this is actually a thing." Like this is
Yeah,
I could get a business
I
outcome.
do that at the beginning. So even if to you it felt like, oh, I'm just like I had already done that napkin math. I have this little thing I called the kickoff doc, and it's basically my one page. Back to my 300 page embarrassment. I now have a one page thing, and it's just called a kickoff doc. And I just write this before I start something, just to get clear on what the hell am I trying to do. Let's take the whichever business you want to take. We can take the newsletter business. So I'll say, what am I doing? I'm going to create a newsletter that I think will be a really popular newsletter for people who are interested in following crypto, similar to, like sort of like the hustle for crypto or the skim for crypto or morning brew for crypto. Okay. That was the high level one line idea. And then I write the win and I write what does winning look like? And I write like the floor, meaning at least this would happen. This is what I need to at least happen for this to be worth my time. Which, by the way, let's say in the podcast case, I was like, the floor win is I'm just having dope conversations with people, and this thing cost me 10 grand a year for the production cost, but like I'm having dope conversations. That was the floor win. And then they're like, then there's like the F yeah win, right? Which is what would feel like an F yeah where I'm high fiving. I can't believe how well this turned out. And that's like, yeah, what if we did get like millions of subscribers? And what if we were making millions of dollars of profit, but it's a really lean thing with only 4 or 5 people working on it? And, some big media company wants to come buy us, right? Like that would be really cool. That would be a really cool outcome. Okay. So I kind of defined the win. I napkin math that. Then I go to the next step. I write my anti-goals. What's an anti-goal? An anti-goal is a very important step that I didn't know when I was younger, which is on the way to success, there are many ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of success. Meaning, let's say you wanted to be, like in college, I knew this girl and her dad was a partner at some consulting firm. I was like, oh, wow. And she told me he makes $1 million a year. I was like, oh my God, somebody makes $1 million a year out of their job? Like, that was unheard of to me. And then she was like, but she was kind of down on it. I was like, you seem kind of down on it. She's like, well, he's also gone Monday through Thursday every day, every week for my entire childhood. Like he flies out of town and on Sunday night. He flies back into town Thursday while I'm asleep. He's here Friday, Saturday, and then he's kind of packing Sunday to go again. And that's what he did every week my whole childhood. It's like, oh, okay, that's an anti-goal. Your goal might be to make $1 million. Your anti-goal is I never see my kids, or my kids sort of resent me because I kind of miss their childhood because I was on the plane all the time. So anti-goals are basically things you don't want to happen that could easily happen if you weren't intentional about the way you approach this. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's like, let's say for your podcast, you want to get millions of listeners, but the anti-goal would be the thing that the algorithm likes is an episode that I'm not really that interested in. So then I just feel like I'm going through the motions, interviewing people I don't care about stuff I don't care about. It'd be a way to lose while winning, right? So I define those. And then I make my, what I call 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week plan. So in 1 hour, how can I start to get momentum and make this real? And that can't be like researching or like making a list. It's got to be like, oh, let me call somebody who I think would need this and let me pitch it to them and see if they would actually want this, right? So it's like something I could do in 1 hour to get the ball moving forward. Or it might be, let me call my buddy who's done something similar and tell him my plan and get his like honest, ask him for his brutally honest take. So in 1 hour, I could just make some progress. Then I make a 1 day plan and a 1 week plan. So I do that up front. And I'll usually go into something saying, if I intend for it to be a business, I kind of differentiate. Like there's things that are art, or I'm just doing it for fun, for my own taste. And the success or failure is, did I do something dope? That's kind of the stage of my career I'm at now. I only just try to do art. I just want to make dope shit that I think is cool, that I'm proud of. And sometimes the whole world agrees. And I'm okay if 99% of the time they don't agree. They don't care. And then there's business, which is like, I want to do this thing because I want it to be a successful, profit-producing endeavor. And I do things like that. I'll buy a company that I'm buying it because it's going to cash flow and I'm going to make X dollars a year off the cash flow of this business, blah, 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 blah. And I'll like define that up front. So I'm not usually I usually up front will try to define that. It gives me clarity. It lets me then experiment. And even if I'm wrong up front with what I defined, at least I stated it so I can go back and look at it and say, what changed? If I want to give up right now, is it because it's hard or because one of my initial assumptions is not true, right? I wrote down my initial assumptions so I could check against that. That keeps me honest. It keeps me from just giving up because I'm bored or because it's hard, and makes it so that I really, continue as long as that it's still holding true to my kind of initial reason I was excited about this.
I'm gonna ask another selfish question, which is, I think speaking for me personally, but I think also for a lot of entrepreneurs or people that want to start businesses, we're dreamers, right? Like we see something in the future and it's almost like our head is in the clouds of dreaming and imagining what this thing could be. And then we're pulled towards it and we get to work. And so I like what you explained about like the 1 page. And so I can see it even for me, if I had to rewind, I could come up with my goals. I could come up with my anti-goals. I could I could paint the picture, I could paint the dream, the vision. The thing that I would struggle with is the quantitative piece, the hard numbers. And so let's say that the ambition is to build $1 million company. And you said that in the beginning, you have an idea of what like the back of the napkin math means. I
Right.
think for most people, they have never been part of building $1 million business. They also do not know anyone who has built $1 million business. So the idea of like the back of the napkin math is a complete mystery. So can you kind of demystify it for us? Like what are the numbers that would need to even be in place if I'm just planning it out in the beginning of like, this could be $1 million idea or $1 million business? What does that look
Right.
like?
All right. So let's role play. My cousin comes to me and says, dude, forget the passion, forget the art, forget the thing I love. I just want to make $1 million. All right. This is, which is fine. It's a fine thing to say. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. Let's go. Um, and they said, I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know where to start. I don't know what the easiest path to that is. I'll first say, look, there's a million ways you could do this. So that's the first thing to know. There's a lot of different ways to do this. There's no one right answer. And by the way, anybody who's telling you like, here's the answer or here's the easy way, they're probably just selling you some shit that's their way of getting rich quick. Okay. So let's not do that. I would say like, look, you can, let's say you want to build some wealth. You could go get a job and save money over time, every year, put it away, invest in an index fund, and it will compound. And there is a get rich slow plan. You'll get rich sometime between your 40s and your 70s if you do it that way. If you save consistently and you invest and things, knock on wood, nothing bad happens. Okay, cool. I was not interested in that. I was interested in a little bit of a faster path. Paul Graham once said startups are basically compressing 40 years of work experience into 4 intense years. And I think that's a good thing to know and ask yourself, am I willing to do that? Am I willing to have 40 years of lessons learned, 40 years of stress, and 40 years of income come in 4 years, right? Like that would be like a model of looking at the world of starting a business. All right. So let's say you want to get to $1 million. The easier way to get to $1 million is to basically sell equity in a business. So you own a business, you own equity in that business, and that business becomes worth something that you could sell. So let's just do some basic reverse engineering. You can create a business. If you want to sell and get $1 million check, you're going to sell your business. How much money does your business need to be making to sell for $1 million? Well, every business has different multiples that they sell for, meaning if you have $100 of profit, I'll pay you 5x multiple, meaning I'll pay you $500, 5 times your current profit. So 4 or 5 times multiple is pretty standard. So you want $1 million, you need to have a business that's producing something like $250,000 a year of income. Okay, how do you get $250,000 of net profit? Well, you're probably going to need to be making something like $500,000 to $800,000 of revenue to do that. Let's take 500 just for simple math. So to do $500,000 of revenue, then how many, let's think of a service or a business I could do that would generate that much. And then what you want to do is create a menu of options. So create a set of possibilities to get there so that don't pick one, come up with 10 different ways that you can get there. And if you don't know how to come up with 10, you're probably not ready to do it yet. Meaning you don't need to know 10 ways how, but you should know the fundamental skeleton of what a business looks like. So for example, my buddy made $10 million selling a blog that was about soap operas, like daytime, The Young and the Restless. A WordPress blog that was spoilers about what was going to happen tomorrow on The Young and the Restless. He sold for, I think, $9 or $10 million. He owned the whole thing himself. He had nothing before that. He built the whole thing. It took very little investment capital. Amazing. I would have never even thought that that's a way you can make money. But I listen to podcasts like My First Million or your podcast or whoever, and I start to hear stories. I start to collect these examples. Oh, that's one way to do it. When I met him, I asked him, I said, how did you even think of that, dude? I would have never even thought you could make money by selling a blog like that. He's like, well, actually, what I did was I went to websites where people sell businesses. And there's brokerage websites like Quiet Light Brokerage or Flippa or these different websites you can go to. He's like, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know a bunch of rich people. That would have been better if I just had a network of successful people I could go ask. I didn't have that. So he's like, I just went to where people are selling their business And then I try to reverse engineer. Wow. He's like, I saw a guy who was doing a blog about soap operas that was selling for like $1 million. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, man, a blog about soap operas could do that for $1 million. And so he reverse engineered. He basically looked at businesses that were already selling for a certain amount or already generating a certain amount. And he basically started making a list of what are the options, made a list of 10, 20 businesses that he found out like that. He would walk around his town or meet people or ask his parents, hey, who do we know that's a successful business person? What do they do? How do they do it? And you go talk to them and you just start to come up with a game plan, right? So I think the successful formula is you want to make $1 million. Basic math would be the basic numbers of the napkin math would be you're selling a business that does $250,000 at a 4 or 5x multiple. To have that much income, you need to be generating maybe $500,000, $600,000 of revenue. To do that, you might have 100 clients that are paying you, $2,000 a month to do SEO services for them or Google ads for them or to optimize their website or to give them leads or whatever the business are. There's 1 million plus different types of businesses. How do you pick which one? Well, first go get around people who have done it, start to learn about them. And then again, whichever one interests you, go try it and expect that it's probably not going to be your first one that works. You had a starter business. I had many starter businesses. It's totally okay to have those starter businesses to try to get there, but it's pretty useful to do the math and sort of like understand the mechanics of like, where does the big payday come from? All right. And there's other variants of this, by the way, like in Silicon Valley, people make $1 billion, not $1 million. How do they do it? And you can go break down what makes a business worth $1 billion, talk to people, read about it, and start to reverse engineer what actually works. I'm a big fan of cloning, meaning I don't want to figure everything out from scratch myself. I would rather understand what's worked for other people and then ask myself, do I think that I could do that? Was that a one-off circumstance, or are there many examples of people doing that? And if there are many examples of people doing that, how can I go hang out with them, talk to them, see if it's really all that it sounds like and how they approach it, how they start it, and then ask myself, do I want to do that?
You know what? I love the point about cloning. I call it, at least to myself when I think about it, is I hate starting from scratch. Like when I see people talk about ideas or like things, people be like, oh, I saw this person do this. Maybe I should try this, or maybe I should do this. And it's like every time you're just switching or you're just doing something randomly, it's like you're starting from scratch. Like there's no model there for you to build on. It's just starting from nothing.
Right. The best way to learn is to learn by doing. It is also the slowest and most painful way. So if you limit yourself to only learning everything from scratch, it's like that dude who tried to make a chicken sandwich from scratch. I don't know if you saw this. Like he grew the bread, like he like planted the seeds, grew the bread, raised a chicken, got the chicken to be able to slaughter the chicken, raised the tomatoes. He did all of that. And it basically cost him like $2,000 in 2 years to make a single chicken sandwich. And he did it as like an art project, a statement project of like, wow, how, we don't even think about what it takes to have these things that are in our life every day. But that's what I see some people do, man. They just take the long, hard road of like, I'm going to grow my own chicken sandwich. It's going to take me 10 times as long as it needs and 10 times more painful and expensive than it needed to be, when it's like, dude, you can just go around and look at what's working and ask, can I remix this? There's a great story that this guy had on my podcast, Monish Pabrai, says. He talks about the two gas stations, and he goes, I forgot how he says it, but it's like the dumbest person in the world is the guy who owns a gas station across the street from a successful gas station. He's like, because the guys across the street, you can see what he's doing. Like, watch him. Oh, he walks out when the customers are there and he washes their windshield, complimentary to make them feel happy. Oh, he's got better snacks and better signage than I have. Like, all you needed to do was copy best practices. That'll get you like 80% of the way. And 20% is going to have to be your original flavor, your special mix for this. Like, I'll give you an example. What's an easy one? My e-com business. I told you that my friend was selling a bunch of dog ramps. And so I then went over to his house and I was like, hey man, like I'm fascinated by this. I would love to learn this. Can I just come shadow you for a day? Like I just want to see what it's like to even do this job. And as he was doing it, I just reverse engineered. Okay, what makes something like this successful? So he's solving a pain point. He needed to know how to do Facebook and Google ads. Cool. I don't know how to do that, but seems learnable. Did he know it up front? No, he didn't. He learned. It took him about 6 to 9 months to get good at this. in e-commerce, what are the key metrics that matter? AOV, your average order value, your margin. You need to have this much margin. Your customer acquisition cost, your LTV, right? Okay, what are the acronyms that today mean nothing to me? It's alphabet soup that I need to learn. It'll take me a couple hours. I can go Google the shit, learn it, and I can start to figure out what the blueprint of this business looks like. And then I can ask myself, do I want to do that? And that's what I did. I picked a different category, but I took the learnings from that and 5 other friends I talked to like that in order to understand how to build a business like that. And I've done that just over and over and over again, rather than me figuring things out the hard, long way from scratch with no input from anybody else.
Mm. You know what? So when we were talking about the eras, your kind of 20s, and you even mentioned this in the last line, you said, I sold my company and hit my goal of becoming a millionaire. And when I read that, I think back to what you said about yourself in the beginning when you were a kid, and you talk about the pain of being average or of being mediocre, this feeling that you didn't want to be forgettable. You know, like it was like, oh, I was so forgettable. And so I'm curious for you, when you sell the company and you're a millionaire, and I don't even know if it's like you're seeing the number in your bank account, like there's like a visual to it. Is that the moment where you're like, what is that feeling? Like, is it even a feeling? Is that the moment where in your mind, you're now memorable? You're now not the average kid. You're now not mediocre. Like, what's that time in your life? Like, what's the first moment of I'm no longer forgettable?
No, that's definitely not the moment. It's dope. Don't get me wrong. It is dope. In fact, I used to hate when people who made it were like, "Oh yeah, it's just not." I'm like, people who are like, "Oh, money doesn't make you happy," and like, people think this, but it's not really that. It's like, "Oh, really? Cool. Like, give me the money then. If it ain't making you happy, let's try it on me. Let's see if that works. Let's see if it fits me better than it fits you." So I think there's a lot of bullshit in that. It for sure was a dope moment to see the money hit. Right? That's cool. Right? It's a cool feeling, but it's cool. Like a party is cool, and then it ends, and the music stops, and then you're like, "All right, back to like a normal day." Right? So it is dope in the moment. It does enable a bunch of freedom, and the freedom is even more dope because it's like, oh, cool. I don't have to do these things anymore, or I have the freedom to live life in a certain way now. That is cool. But shaking that feeling of average didn't come because I got validated or I got my passport stamped by some investor or the company that bought it or the number in the bank account. That's never it, right? Like you think, even when you're young, you think that might be it. It ain't it. It ain't it. And I think everybody deep down knows that's probably not it. Fundamentally, like the thing I wanted was not that I wanted to be seen by others. It's not that I wanted other people to think I was not average. I just wanted my own life to be dope. Like I wanted to be jealous of myself. I wanted to think that, man, this is awesome. I feel lucky. I feel like I got cheat codes to my own to life. I can't believe how lucky I am that this is how it goes. That's how I wanted to feel about myself. It was a completely internal thing. And so when that happened, that wasn't the turning point. What the turning point was more like when I started the podcast. And I was like, this is fun to do. And I think I'm good at this. And it feels good to be good at something. And I enjoy doing this. It doesn't feel like work to me. And wow, people seem to like what I'm doing. And I'm not even trying to guess what they want. I'm simply being me and they're liking it. This is great. It's like effortlessly working. Whereas before, everything I'd ever done was so much effort. Or I started to define better, like, yo, what do I want in life? Am I trying to be the richest dude on the block? That's not it. Am I trying to be Elon Musk? No, he seems stressed and he's like been divorced 5 times. Like, I don't want that. So to me, the answer was not having a certain amount of money or a successful moment. It was getting mature enough where I could define life on my own terms. What I thought was cool, what I thought would be a cool life for me, how I wanted to be, and then seeing myself do that thing. I'll give you an example. I would admire somebody who does certain things. So it's like, I admire people. There's a story about George Clooney. Have you ever heard the George Clooney briefcase story?
No. Tell me.
So George Clooney, he makes it, right? Becomes fucking George Clooney. And there's a story of George does this reunion with his friends from either high school or college, and they all go to this cabin, and they've been doing this for years. And one year he goes and he brings these briefcases, And he gives everybody a briefcase. He says, "We're going to open this at dinner." And they sit down at the dinner and they open it up. There's like 12 or 13 people. And in each briefcase is $1 million. And he literally just gives his friends each $1 million. I love that story, right? Because, first of course, it's cool that somebody's got $1 million to give to 10 friends. That's cool. The money part's cool. And it's cool that those people now have that money. But that was like that was only like 1% of what I thought was cool about that story. What I loved about that story was the showmanship. Like, he could have done that 100 ways, but he did it in a way that was like, he made a magic moment out of it, like a memorable moment out of it. He did it in some style. The second thing was like, he when he ate, he made sure all his friends ate. I think that's dope. I think that's a dope way to be. Cool. I want to be that way. And even if I don't have $1 million to give to 10 different people just on a whim, how do I do a little bit of that in my life? Like, I kind of wrote that down. Like, I think that's dope, that when you eat, everybody eats, and that you create magic moments with a little bit of showmanship for people. So then I started to find little moments of my life where I could do that. So for me, the like not average was starting to identify what a dope life would be on my terms, and then seeing that happen. And most of this happens completely, out of the public eye, but I see it. And that's all that matters, is, do I see that happening? And so, I'll give you another stupid example. I love taking naps. I'm a big nap guy. I think it's crazy that more people don't take naps. Not only is it good for you, it feels amazing. And when I thought about like what I used to want, which was like maybe a big house, nice car, or just like get on the cover of some magazine, like like success as was handed to me in the factory settings. We all start with these factory settings of like, I'm an entrepreneur, therefore success as entrepreneur means X. It means you're on the cover of Forbes, you're invited to speak at this conference, you have this house, you have this money, whatever. I changed the factory settings to like, yo, what do I actually think would be dope? I don't even care about a magazine cover. What do I really think is be dope? It'd be cool if I could take a guilt-free nap in the middle of the day. That's wealth. It'd be cool if I could have a trainer who comes to my house that trains me, or I get to go hoop. I still play basketball even when I'm healthy enough to go play basketball. I don't really care about abs, but I care about being healthy enough, right? So defining what would be dope to me, which might sound totally lame to others or be totally different than what others wanted, and seeing that come to fruition, that was the satisfactory moment. That's when I was like, all right, this ain't average anymore. It's not average because I was intentional, and like I'm able to like make those things happen through, certain decisions and some good luck.
Yeah. You know what's funny is like we spend so much time, I think, in life like in pursuit, like chasing the thing, like chasing the milestone, the first million or the first 100,000 subscribers, or like just the cool little headline. And I've realized, I even wrote this in my phone. I said the best moments in life are the quiet moments. They're like these deeply personal, meaningful moments. And a lot of these moments are actually experienced in solitude. Like I remember I wanted the podcast to take off for so long. And then you get even the first episode that gets 100,000 views. And yes, that is a good feeling in that moment. And it's nice to get the applause from the audience, right? It's nice to be George Clooney and do the box office film that brings in a bunch of money, or be the NBA player that signs the max deal. But the most meaningful moments are like these quiet moments that are deeply personal. And sometimes it's the most mundane thing as well. I remember for me when I was
What's
in,
an example?
for me when I was at my mum's house, um, she has like a porch outside. And obviously, I grew up in London. I grew up in the UK. One of the things about London, it rains all the time. And so people typically like hate the rain. I find the rain like oddly nostalgic. Like it's very calming to me. And so there's one day, it's like in the winter in New Jersey. I've been living at home for 9, 10 months at this point, and the show has started to do well. And I've made this decision to start traveling to like um, to record the show. Like there's a need now for me to like travel to guests. And I remember I'm sitting outside on the porch, and the porch is covered, and it's like heavy rainfall is coming down everywhere. And it's nighttime, so it's like dark. But I've kind of set up this little area for myself. I've set up a blanket, and I'm watching like a movie. And it's rain is all around me. And I remember just like looking into the house and having this feeling of like, I'm going to be traveling to record this show. Like, I'm going to go to Miami, Atlanta, London, LA to record this show that started in my sister's bedroom upstairs. And it was like this very quiet moment where I was like, you did the thing. And so for anyone that's like, I don't know, wanting to build a YouTube channel or do a podcast, like you wouldn't think that that would be the moment. But that was the one where I was like, it was like this odd satisfaction. It was like the person that I thought I was, and I was telling myself the whole time I was actually him. And that
Yeah.
confirmation was everything.
Yeah. I mean, life is not about what you get, it's about who you become. And when you are proud of yourself, is the like, I've now realized like that's the whole game. The whole game is figure out kind of what you want to be about, who you want to be, and then the pursuit of that is the game. And you'll use these things as vehicles. Business is a vehicle. It's an excuse to develop yourself. The gym is a vehicle. It's an excuse. It's a place you go to build that part of you, to build yourself up. Business is just a gym where you go to build a part of you up. The podcast is just a gym where you go to build yourself up. And the satisfaction, the being proud of yourself, is the one that's underrated. It's the real rubric, right? I think about that all the time. Like a great question to ask somebody. It's a great way to get to know people. Is um, a little touchy feely, but it's like, when's the last time you were really proud of yourself?
Mm.
And what you just shared just now was was a moment for you that you were really proud of yourself. You're like, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing I wanted to do. And it's not that you had done it. It's that you were doing the thing you wanted to do, which has two variables. Did you even define for yourself what you wanted to do? Right? Are you ordering something off the menu that's like, that's yours? That's, you know what I mean? It's like back in the day, people used to go to a coffee shop, just get a coffee. Then you get Starbucks. It's like, whoa, there's like 16,000 variations of a coffee. It's, oh, do I like iced lattes? Do I like frappuccinos? Do I like this? What's my coffee? There's actually even a secret menu at Starbucks. They don't even have that. Some people even know that one, right? But like doing the thing you wanted to do. So for you, it was like, I want to make a podcast as successful, so successful that I'm traveling the world to inspiring guests and then telling these stories. And that implies that the views and the money and the rest of it's got to be working out if I'm doing that, right? Right. And I'm taking the action, right? I'm doing the steps. I'm doing my part to make it happen, right? And it's like, those are the real feelings of satisfaction. That's the thing we actually chase. But it's hard to know that. It's almost easier to achieve and then realize that than it is to just understand that and not chase those things. Sometimes the fastest way to the destination is through. And so like the best way to like realize, oh, it's not about accomplishing it, just to go accomplish it. Then you'll get it out of your system and you'll be ready to like play the real game. Some of us are wise enough. Some people are wise enough to just play the real game up front. And the real game to me is define what you want and then pursue it and enjoy the progress of pursuing it. That's the infinite game.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of the journey of life. Like you have to go and like almost do the thing, like slay the dragon to realize it wasn't ever really about that. It was kind of like what happened along the way. You know, one of the eras, like the final era, well, not the final era, but the next era that you spoke about, you said the next era, get in great shape, abs, stop chasing money, double down on my gift of creating content, enjoy these years where I'm still my kid's best friend. What made you write that? Why is that the next era?
Which part? The whole thing?
The whole thing.
What made me write it was when I wrote the current era, the eras that had happened. It begs the question: what's next? Just like each one of those eras ended and a new one began, and they kind of had this like sort of 7-year run each. I said, well, what are the odds that this is the last one? And I'm just going to keep doing this forever. Like that doesn't seem like that's true. So just to ask myself the question and then see if I can answer. What do I think the next era is about? Who do I want to become? Well, I want to become the guy who, even though for 36 years had a bunch of shitty health habits, bad sleep, bad diet, wasn't working out, changed all those, became the healthy version of myself. I would feel proud if I did that. It's probably the one area of life that I've always, it's like, I say I'm going to do it. I start to do it. I want to do it. I haven't done it yet. So that's in that era, right? I knew that one had to be there. Stop chasing money. I think, the only winners of the race are the ones who stop, right? Like the ones who exit the rat race. They're the only true winners of the rat race. And so, like, at a certain point, you've got enough money. Like, you've earned the last dollar you'll ever spend, and you should just stop. I didn't say stop earning money. What I said is stop chasing money, which meant don't do things where the primary reason to do it is money. I'm at an era of my life where that's now true. That wasn't true before for me, but it's now true. It's very hard to do, though. Money's a very tempting thing. It's a great tangible scoreboard, and it's fun, and it makes you feel valuable. But I read this thing once that was like, there's two ways to have a relationship with money. One is you use money as a tool to improve, your life and the life of the people you care about, and the other is money as a measuring stick. Which one are you doing? And I only want to do the first one, money as a tool, and I've got enough money to use it to improve my life. I don't need to. I no longer need to say yes to any project where the primary motivator is money. I love making money. Don't get me wrong. I hope to make money while I do other things, but I don't want to do them because of that. Double down on my gift. Well, it's like, cool. If you're not chasing money, what are you chasing? And it's like, well, let me do the thing that I really enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. Another guiding principle is that, what does it mean to retire? Right? Like, people think retirement is to just stop working and do what? Go on a cruise or do something like that. It doesn't even sound that appealing. Nor does the opposite. Nor does just working 12 hours a day till I'm 85. That doesn't sound good either. So what else is there? What's door C? And what I realized was door C was that, when you work on things where the act of doing them is the reward, that's the real retirement. So you're not doing it for some future payoff. You're not, I'm struggling today or sacrificing today. I'm eating shit today because I think it'll become something in the future. The best things in life are the things where you do them and the reward is the act of doing them. That doesn't mean you don't get extra rewards, but that in itself was enough. And that's, for example, the podcast for me. And then the last one is, enjoy these years with my kids, or I'm my kid's best friend. I think after the age of 10, you're no longer your kid's best friend. And when you learn from people who are a little older and wiser than you, it's like, what do they care about? And what do they wish they cared more about? What do they wish they realized sooner? And I think a big one is like, you only have so much time at home with your, for me, it's like my parents are getting older, but also my kids. Enjoy that, make the most of that. Don't let that pass by. Don't just be on my phone the whole time. Like, there's got to be some intention around, like, sitting in that, enjoy that part of the process.
Yeah. You know what? Here's where I want to end. I remember listening to 6 months ago. I'm in London. I'm in a gym in London, and I got my headphones on, and I'm listening to a podcast interview. It's with Lewis Howes and Patrick Bet-David. And Patrick Bet-David, obviously, successful like insurance guy, owns Valuetainment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this part of the episode where he goes, when you start to become successful, when things start to work, there's a lot of temptations that come across your desk, right? Whether it's like drugs or money, alcohol, women, like all of these different things he names. He says none of these vices or temptations are as addictive as this one thing. This one thing, which is the most dangerous thing of everything, especially for men. And he says that one thing is flattery. And so it's people telling you how great you are, how good, you're so good at this, everything you do works. And so I'm sure for someone like you who got hundreds of thousands of followers across social media, you've made millions of dollars, you have an incredibly successful podcast, I'm sure that you get a lot of flattery.
You're doing it right now.
Even me right now. And so, Shaan, the thing that I'm really curious about is almost remixing that question that you did, which was like, when was the last time you were proud of yourself? My remixed version of that, when was the last time that someone told you something about yourself and it just meant a little bit more than all of the other compliments or all of the other nice things that had been said about you? I don't know. There was just something about that person and who they were to you and what they were saying that it was just a bit deeper. It just struck a chord. It just created that moment of pride. I'm curious for you. What comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, first, the flattery thing, easy solve. Get married, have kids. My wife doesn't give a shit about my podcast or my Twitter followers. She's like, "Did you take out the trash?" Like, I'm thankful for the people that humble me. My wife humbles me. She keeps me grounded. She sees me at my worst too. So and your kid, my kids too. Like, what do they care? They don't care about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
My daughter's like, why do you have to work? What do you need money for? What is all this? And I remember like my college roommate, he had this poster on his wall that his dad gave him when he went to college. And it was the poem If by Richard Kipling, I think is his name. Rudyard Kipling. Have you ever seen this poem?
No.
It's a famous poem. And there's a line in there and it says, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. And I that really stuck with me. And I remember reading it then, and then it came back into my life. I did this thing where you go into a prison and you meet people who are in prison for life, and you kind of, it's like men on the outside and men on the inside, and you kind of male bonding type shit. I did those, and that's another humbling. Wow, the world is pretty big, and the world is pretty gnarly, and my problems are not as important as they feel in the moment. And the guy had the same thing written. He goes, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. It came up a third time in my life. And by the third time in my life, I said, all right, this line has been chasing me. I think there was something meant for me in this line. Maybe I need to pay attention to this line. Maybe I need to internalize this line. And I think I got pretty good when I was young at meeting disaster and not letting disaster sort of define me or drown me. But I had never thought about the other side, the triumph, the flattery, the winning. And like, that seemed like all good. Like, it seemed great. It's so like intoxicating to just sit in that. But it is also an imposter. And so just recognizing that, I think, is a good stoic style of philosophy of a way to act. To answer your question about what's the last flattery that stood out, I think actions speak a lot louder than words. And I want to give a shout out to Ben, who is my business partner. Me and Ben started multiple businesses together. We started at the Milk Road together. We started our private equity investing together. We do a bunch of shit together. He joined me when I was in let's make money mode. I was in entrepreneur first mode. I was not in my current era, which is a lot more of what I talked about, doing shit that I think is dope. Hopefully at some point the whole world agrees, but they don't, that's not why I'm doing it. Doing things, on my way where I am my own judge. So, and a lot of those things feel like art projects. They don't feel like businesses. There's not a clear path to success or money, or there's things that I know will work, but I refuse to do them because I'm like, I'm not just trying to do something that works. I'm trying to do something that I would be excited to do and I would be proud of if I did it. And by the way, I don't know what that thing is. I'm going to wander around. I'm on a season of wandering right now. And I don't know when that's going to end. I'm going to keep wandering until I find the thing. I'm going to be actively wandering, but that's the season. And a lot of people give you compliments, but what Ben has done is he's basically just like, I am down. Let's go on that together. He's like, I believe in you. I believe in your talents. I believe that you will figure it out. Even though there's whiplash of trying to pick what to do next, or there's, you're excited about one thing, but then you change your mind. Like, it would be so easy for him to hop off that train and just go do something else. And I think his belief in me not through any compliment or anything like that, but just the action of being like, man, that's a really talented dude who's saying, I want to work with you on whatever it is, a blank check investment of his most valuable asset, which is his time and his talents. He wrote me that blank check. And I know it's going to pay off for him. But the fact that he knows it's going to pay off for him means that he thinks the world of what we can do together, of what I'm capable of. And that is a very flattering and sort of meaningful action. And that's not typical. There's a lot of people that will partner with you when you have a well-defined thing, when you have a well-oiled machine, when you got the results already in the bank of what you're going to do next. So few people can go with you on an undefined, unknown walk through the fog to try to find something that might be really great. And especially somebody who has tons of options and can do whatever the hell he wants. For him to do that, I think that is more valuable to me than any compliment anybody's given me, or a tweet, or a nice thing somebody emails me.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Have you told him that?
No, I'm going to send him this clip. Great question. Great question. You made me realize that in the moment. It's something I hadn't brought my attention to. I appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah. No, I love it. Shaan, I appreciate you so much for coming on. And you know what? You even you alluded a bit to like what it's been like behind the scenes for us putting this episode together. I wish that people could see kind of how it started from like our phone call to end up in this moment. Because funnily enough, everything we discussed kind of came together in one episode and it was pretty spontaneous. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, dude. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. We're going to have to run a part 2 sometime in person.
All right, I'm down.
We're going to have to make that happen. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It's really a dream for me that I get to do this. It's surreal that this is what I do full time and every week. So if you enjoy the content, if you enjoyed the conversation, the stories, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us immeasurably with growing the channel, with getting guests, all of those things. So please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you next time.